Enough of the Kema Kema. Space from the Deep, episode 23. Jake, I've got you up here as a co-host. Let's get a quick mic check. How you doing?
Hello, 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 beautiful people. Can you hear me just fine?
Beautiful. Loud and clear. Welcome, welcome.
Wonderful. Wunderbar. Happy Space from the Deep, episode 23, everybody.
Happy Space from the Deep. Yeah, it's so funny. Last week I had something personally I had to take care of in the morning, and I like really miss it. This is like,
I think we all did. We were all kind of jolted by what happened last week. We didn't know what happened.
It was crazy, bro.
Did an alien get you? Did Ebert zap you? Then we started to get worried.
Ebert zapped. All the aliens from the movies we've been talking about all morning came down, zapped me all simultaneously at the same time. It was just an absolute mess. But I got a question in the group in Telegram from Des. That song was called Kema Kema by Lincoln Jesser. I don't know, I don't know anymore how music plays through on Space. Sometimes I listen back to the recordings and it's absolutely butchered, and I'm like, oh, well, no one heard the song that I really wanted everyone to hear. But if you heard it, it's a really sick. It's a house tune. But he uses like some native flute and like samples like some really cool stuff, and it's an absolute banger.
It was super sick, man. Yeah, we all heard it just fine. I heard it great on my side. I was hoping it would play a little longer, actually. Maybe we can play it at the end a bit more. We close it down. But it was legit. Yeah. Thanks, Des, for the recommendation. It was legit. I loved it. The flute working in there was amazing.
Right? He's awesome. He does this thing with his music, and we could probably save this conversation for when Des isn't at work and he's able to join us on the call too, because he does this thing with his music where it's tuned specifically to 432 hertz. A lot of music in today's day and age is tuned to 440, which is, I guess, where everyone tunes their perfect A to. But he tunes his music down to 432, which is more naturally, I guess, and geometrically harmonious and resonant as far as like a frequency goes. And it also, I think, psychoacoustically is healthier for our brain to hear, because the human brain and the way that we want to hear things is we want to hear things in like these geometrically fractal perfect patterns. And 440 is actually quite dissonant. And that's what most pop music today is tuned to. So he is very specifically tuning his music to like he calls it more of like a spiritual frequency. But it was a cool track to play because it opens up Space from the Deep perfectly, because it opens up what we like to talk about as well. I
have a lot to say on that subject, maybe at another time on that Space, as I have gone down that rabbit hole for, I don't want to say a long, long time, but I was researching cymatics, fluid cymatics, and then material particle cymatics, and it came up because I was interested in what resonance means, harmonic resonance, right? And my background is in engineering, and I absolutely have an affinity towards spiritual progression and evolution of the human species. So what is valid here when, someone says it's in resonance to something? And so anyways, it's probably not the Space from the Deep episode 23 we want to chat about today, those acoustics.
I could.
But I do have an affinity towards this subject. And we can absolutely kind of jam back and forth, because I'm very familiar with the 440, 432. I've seen 444. You can even tune it a little higher. And then, some have taken the frequency and hertz measures to different chakra emanations.
Yep.
And what's notoriously missing from almost any of, the rhetoric, even though it is included in some, is the volume and the container that the space of the acoustics is occupying. And you of all people know that, right? Being just a world-renowned sound engineer, you know that the space is so critical. The corners of the room, the material it's made out of, the surrounding, the insulation, all of it, that can determine the actual reverberance of a harmonic if you are to hold either absolute or a relative resonance in that particular container. So interesting stuff.
There's an interesting way to kind of bridge over to movies too with this, because I don't know if you guys are fans of David Fincher movies. Social Network and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh yeah.
Go back to like The Game, which is a really, really cool early Fincher film. there's a guy named Trent Reznor who was in a band called Nine Inch Nails, who does a lot of David Fincher's music. And they've done some really interesting things with dissonance. In particular, it was in Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, where they started basically pushing two sounds against one another, but out of alignment, so out of phase. So they had a different time relationship to one another. And whether it was heard or not in the music, they would push them into like the surrounds and the theater. They'd kind of like make them crawl around the room. And if you saw any of his movies in the theater, there would be scenes where you were like, I feel like my skin is crawling. I feel like I feel itchy, or I feel like something is wrong, like something is really weird, and I don't know what it is. And a lot of times it was what Trent was doing with the music. He was pushing things out of phase because, again, we have these psychoacoustic rules that like kind of the design of the human body is governed by. And when you feed the brain or you feed the ears things that are kind of, out of alignment with what our brains expect, it gets really fucking uncomfortable. And they did that a lot. It's in particular Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I would listen to that score just because the music is weird. And if you listen in headphones, you'll probably feel what I'm talking about.
So interesting. Yeah, they pushed out of phase deliberately to get. It was deliberate to give that experience. So he knew what he was doing. That's wild.
Trent Reznor specifically is he's a really smart composer. And
probably an alien.
It's something. And I think that's it's funny. Like I'm gonna wait until Rain gets on because I think that it's a really perfect segue into what the Birdathon is, because I think that there really is something to all of the movies that have been made. Whether it's people pontificating on what could be or what is or what else, or whether it's actually has some truth to it. I think it was a really interesting Birdathon today. And I actually was, sometimes I'm surprised at the Birdathons that really hit and people are like, oh yeah, no, I could think about this stuff all day. So and Jake, you got a chance to get in there. You had a couple. Clara was a great drop. So we had some really good submissions today. But before we jump forward, just wanted to welcome the people in here. Josh Meyer. Meyer, just so you know, we got a little surprise coming out today, and it's about you, probably at the end of the space or maybe a little later on in the day. Strive, what's up? After All I, welcome. If you guys haven't had a chance yet, ping people in our Telegram. Tell them to get the heck in here, or just send it to people post it to your own profiles, post it in the thread. Make sure that people know that we're live. I think Rain said he's going to be here in a minute or so. I think he's just on his way in. He probably got zapped. But we are live. It's episode 23. We've got some interesting things to talk about today. I think one of them in particular is about Space from the Deep. And it's about some updates that we have been working on specific to Space from the Deep. This is our 23rd episode. So I think that, the show is kind of naturally going to evolve. I think it's already been evolving, and we've kind of stumbled into a nice format that feels really good. It's about an hour-long show. We usually don't go too much longer than that. We have guests on here and there, but I'm going to talk about some of the updates that we're seeing for that. I'll talk about my little Meyer surprise later on in the space as well. And I think that the Birdathon this morning was a success. In my opinion, I really wanted to run it through the day, kind of wanted to let this one cook, but we got so many good submissions. We're going to do 2 winners, and we're going to announce them at the end of the space today. So we'll do 2 winners. Instead of just doing the one, we're going to split it. 2 winners get $33 in Ebert, and then I'll announce that toward the end of the space. So there were too many good drops. And there were a lot of movies that I've never even seen before. So I think that when you guys start dropping things, we're like, oh shit, I've never seen that. Or it really gets me thinking about, wait, did I see this? Did I not see this? Because I feel like I've seen it all, but I really haven't. No one has. So what's up, Rain? Just seeing you pop in, brother. How you doing?
Rain, what's good?
Yo.
You're on mute, buddy.
Yeah, dude, I'm very behind today. Brain is going slow, everything's going slow a little bit. But I'm having a fucking fantastic day. A fucking amazing, phenomenal day.
Good.
I am a happy camper. Absolutely happy as could be. I just cracked open a Diet Coke.
Sick. We're chilling. I'm eating watermelon. This is great.
Yeah.
This is great.
Oh yeah.
I think Rain, you would have loved our birdathon this morning. It's technically still in motion. Also, Meyer, good submission by the way. The PK, I've never seen PK, but the birdathon, Rain, just so you know, was basically, I said it's been speculated that Hollywood has been used as a funnel for disclosure about extraterrestrial life on and beyond Earth. And I said the jury is still out, but it does make you wonder. And in the group, I said it's not limited to just extraterrestrials and aliens. It could be anything, something supernatural. It could be, something about reincarnation. It could be something about the Earth itself that we've not been told, but are kind of being told through our media. And the whole thing was, okay, drop a movie with a concept that feels so well thought out and so real that it could be true. And we got some crazy submissions. I mean, Des, I just wanted to call out Des's submission. Fuck, I'm going to send that to you in Discord, Rain, just because it is absolutely, it hits the nail on the head for so many things that we've all been thinking. Talks about
these are real movies, or they're creating a movie, basically. Real movie.
So it's for me, for example, I loved The Abyss with the James Cameron movie from the 90s. Man. Fucking love that movie. It's so thought-provoking. It feels like it could be real because there's so much about the deep sea that we don't know about. And it feels like if the government, or if there are people in power or people who kind of have information, and let's say that they are legally obligated to share it to the public, but the mechanism by which they do that isn't defined, then media and Hollywood is a pretty good vehicle to push those stories through. And I think that a lot of us, any cinephile, I think could always agree that science fiction movies and movies about the future and movies about, other, extraterrestrial life, all that stuff, some of them just resonate more than others. There were a lot of people who mentioned Arrival today, for example. Arrival, just something about it just kind of hits. And it's maybe that it's because there's some truth, and maybe it's not the exact scenario.
Is that the one with the translator? The lady's trying to talk to the ship with whatever? Yeah, okay.
And don't forget, it's different from The Arrival versus Arrival. Two different movies. Well, make sure that's crystal clear.
That was a good
If you haven't seen The Arrival, please watch it. It's on Prime. It's so good. It's Charlie Sheen. I mean, come on, 1996.
Fucking crazy. Movies in the 90s were epic. Have you guys ever seen Flatliners?
No.
Bro, Flatliners is a cool movie. That's from the 90s. But it's super, it's super noir, anamorphic, but it's about these people who they figure out a way to kill themselves with basically like shock therapy, and they kill themselves for a moment and go to the afterlife, and they experience the afterlife for the moments that they're dead, but then the people in the room are able to revive them. So they kind of flatline themselves with the panels with the.
I have seen this,
bro. Flatliners is crazy.
Yeah, that is a crazy fucking movie.
Crazy movie.
You just reminded me of two separate movies that completely were out of my memory field until you just said it. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but if I don't say it now, it's going to go right out of my brain. The first one is, who has seen Langoliers? Come on. Langoliers. It is you mentioned this not old, but late 80s, early 90s anamorphic type style movie. I forgot who directed this. Was it Tim Burton or Spielberg? I mean, it's about these entities Stephen King, they eat time. And you have to outrun these monsters that are eating time. So you see people on flights and jets trying to run these little monsters eating time, trying to circumnavigate the globe before they catch up to you. That's the first one. It was completely out of my memory until you brought up Flatliners. And the second one was Flatliners seems to be maybe the precursor to a movie that was just released around 5 years ago from Jason Segel. What was the movie called? It was him, and it was essentially it's the same premise. It was a neuroscientist, and they were deliberately they had a machine where they could record the afterlife. people were deliberately committing mass suicide because the afterlife was just way much better than this reality, and they had physical proof of it. But they were conducting these tests to prove exactly what was on the other side. But Jason Segel was in that. Who was the No Men for High Castle? Who was the main actor in that?
I know the movie you're talking about. The movie's actually pretty good.
Really good. It's on Netflix right now.
It's almost like a fog, right? Like they're running away from this fucked up.
Oh my God, I know this. Yeah, I know this.
No, it's not. It's not a fog movie. No, I'm just going to Google it real quick. Hang on.
It kind of makes you wonder that, like that there were certain decades where like more information got out. Like the 90s feels like it. I don't know. The 90s feels like it was really true. I don't know. Like there's Des mentioned They Live. I don't know if you guys ever seen the John Carpenter movie They Live. But again, They Live is great. Probably one of the best alleyway fight scenes I've also ever seen in They Live. It's this like extended like fight scene between these two chads just like duking it out in an alleyway for like good 10 minutes. And it's like, is this over yet? Should they end this? And it's like, nah, we're going to go for another few minutes. Let's get another few points. They destroy each other. But They Live is also a great movie. The Discovery. Yes. Okay. I have seen Discovery too.
That was it.
Yeah. The Flatliners was 100% a precursor to the Discovery. Like, I mean, they stole a lot.
Probably. Can you imagine what film's going to steal from Ebert one day and build up on our franchise?
There's so much to say.
Like, it's so great. Like, so I was talking to our animator over at Atrium about this the other day, and we have this proof of concept film that we've been working on. It's like 3.5 minutes. And he was kind of asking me like if that was going to be like the tone of Ebert's like movies and like the shows. And I was like, kind of. It's a little bit of like a Trojan horse. It's a film that will allow us. For people in here who aren't aware, we've started it and entered into a strategic round of fundraising. So basically, we're using that asset as a way of fundraising for our project and giving us some runway to build and probably produce our pilot. And all different sorts of reasons to, bring money in and support us. And that film is a really good way to do it. And he was asking, and I was like, yeah, it's like a little bit of a Trojan horse because I really want to do something with animation that hasn't been done, which is to kind of make something that is, animated movies and 3D and all this stuff is so, I call it frame fucked. Like it is so to the frame specific because it kind of technically has to be. But as we've gotten a little bit more technically advanced with 3D technologies, you're able to, I think, open up the frame a little bit more, if that makes sense. You can be a little looser with the shots that you're doing. It doesn't have to be so like tactile specific. And if you break it, you retroactively ruin 20 people's lives. Like it's just, you can actually be a little bit more free, I think, in the world of 3D now. So movies that I think could never be made in 3D can now be made. More expressionistic films, more art style films, more films that kind of explore time as opposed to really being wed to something that feels like really tight and overproduced and things like that. So like if you look at Pixar films, God, every single frame is so like, it's just, it is so overworked on that I think that what we want to do is kind of blast the frames open a little bit and make something that feels way more free, almost like it was like found, like in live action somewhere. So I think that I hope that what we're doing with Ebert's films, Jake, to answer your question is, I hope that we're kind of setting a new tone in the world of 3D animation, just given where we're at with technology right now, because I think that we can. We're early to the idea, I think, but I also think that we have a character that allows us to do it because it doesn't speak. There's no dialogue. And in the world of 3D, more often than not, they record dialogue first. So they get people in the booth, they record all the lines. Like if you've ever seen like Toy Story behind the scenes, they animated to the words. So they did the reads first and then they animate to that. So that's what they're locked to. With us, it's like, well, Ebert doesn't really talk. So what's he doing? Where is he going? What's he feeling? What's he seeing? What's he hearing? So I think, it really opens up the door to be like super, super free from, I think, the rules and the confines that have been seen in the 3D world. But yeah, Flatliners, I'm going to go, I got Flatliners right here. I'm looking at it right next to me. I need to watch this one and revisit some of these movies. But I think that, as far as the Birdathon goes, Rain, I'd be interested to know, like, do you have a movie that you think is just so true that it could be like, you know, the reality of things, whether it's about the afterlife or, you know, where we go when we die? You know, Flatliner's interpretation of the afterlife was really interesting. You know, I think that it's a really cool interpretation of what might happen. You know, I think that people who have portrayed DMT experiences, like Gaspar Noé, has explored the afterlife like very deeply. So, and they say when you do DMT, you're technically dying. So, you know, what do you think?
Yeah, great question. This is, you know, this is wild, right? And I'm gonna make a couple comparisons here. So, like, I find horror films. I'll just say this, and you guys will understand where I'm leading to with this. But I either find horror films really, 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 really scary, or really, 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 really funny. And what really ticks it for me between the two is, okay, in my mind, like, is this possible? In the sense of creativity, is it possible? Right. And it's more so exploring into, of course, like the unknown. So it's actually super interesting. So, like, I'm a very in-depth thinker. And so, like, once a year, this happens to me every year, once a year. I don't know why, but basically I'll go upstairs, right? I'll go to bed. I'll try to go to bed. And my mind will just start racing, like, about death, you know? And like, I'm a religious man, you know, I, you know, love my God, whatever you believe, all love here. But it's human nature to be like, you know, scared, you know, have fear of death a little bit. And it's like, fuck. It's like, well, what happens? You know, what, you know, what does happen? Like, okay, you die, you go to heaven. Like, what happens in between going to heaven, right? How long does it take? Is there a fucking purgatory? Is there a limbo? Is there all this shit? And so, like, movies to me specifically that, and I'll say this one, and this is more mainstream, but I'll explain really what made this movie so terrifying to me in the real thing. And Jake, you might want to cover yours. So I don't want it to trigger you. You know, but like in the movie Insidious, right, where the astral projection, right, the astral projection, where like you can leave your body and something can then enter into your body and take over your body. That shit like fucking terrified me. Like, I wasn't afraid of the demons in the movie or any of that shit. But like, I remember when I would go to bed, I'd be like, I'd like tell my mom, I'd be like, you better not fucking leave. You better stay in this shit. Don't you fucking go anywhere. You stay in this shit. Don't open this house, this body to nothing. Don't fucking do it. So like, I think the big thing for me, and it's probably my religious affiliation, right? But it's like, I think demons are fucking scary. I do. But at the same time, again, going to the religious aspect, right? It's like, you know, it's more so like, right, it's basically like the power of God. Every if you go into biblical stuff, you know, like every demon fears the name of God and all this stuff. You're protected with God, yada yada. But it's still fucking scary because you can't see it, or you can't see it. You don't know if it's there. Is it there? Like, there's no factual proof that it doesn't exist. There's no factual proof that it does exist. It's just like context to stuff. So like, I think that shit always has scared me a bit, but also hyper fucking intrigued me, you know. And I'll say this to kind of divulge a little bit. And this, well, can I continue?
Oh,
can I
please.
Continue and do
Yeah, please
change?
keep going.
Okay. So the more older I get, I'll say, the more I realize that we're living in, it feels like a fucking sitcom. You know, life feels like a sitcom in the sense that, you know, I don't know if you guys saw all of the I don't want to go way down the rabbit hole here, but obviously, like, Trump assassination attempts just so happens to declassify all the CIA files around the JFK assassination, which proved that the JFK assassination 1,000% undoubtedly was an inside job. You know, all this stuff. There was help from the Australian government and other governments. Like, JFK, like, we killed JFK. Like, that's undoubtedly. And then, I don't know if you guys saw this, but like, this is where it gets really fucking crazy. But like, they basically confirmed that the Nephilim, which I know this will get Jake hype, the Nephilim were real. So we had giants fucking roaming the land of Earth. So like the Nephilim, for people who don't know, in super simple terms, I'll start with you, Bert. Like, the story David and Goliath, right? David's a guy, Goliath's this big giant.
Yep.
Put a rock in a sling, kills him, whatever, blah, blah. So it's confirmed that there was life on Mars. 100% that there was an advanced society on Mars in more of these declassified files. And that what they believe is that the Nephilim lived on Mars. And they somehow came to Earth. And when they came to Earth, this is where it gets even more wild, but it's like they were the ones who built the pyramids. It was the fucking Nephilim, which are these big giants. So like it's fucking like, okay, like I see this now and I'm like, you think like, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, where they also like declassified all the UFO shit. Like, oh yeah, aliens are real, UFOs are fucking real. We got shit flying around. We have no idea what the fuck it is. And it just opens this rabbit hole to where it's like, what the fuck is happening?
Mm-hmm.
Like what the fuck is real? Like I would not be shocked, bro. I would not be shocked if, and I don't want to go straight into it because I want to give Jake and you some time to talk about this a little bit. But like, I want to be shocked about if the big conspiracy I'm looking at is Antarctica, and like how it's just go down a rabbit hole of fucking Antarctica, and that'll blow your mind a bit too. But I yield. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but life is crazy. I feel like I'm in a movie. I feel like I'm in a movie, and the plot is thickening and changing consistently every single day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm really curious to hear what Jake says. I just also wanted to say that if anybody in the room wanted to come up and share their thoughts, that please do just request. I'll bring you up here in a heartbeat, because this is a fascinating subject. It's a huge subject too. The Nephilim and everything that we do and don't know really about like what the Bible says. And if you've read the Bible, like I had to read the Bible when I did my confirmation when I was younger, but I never understood what I was reading. The language of the Bible, the verses that I read, it was very, very difficult. And perhaps a lot of people in here can also attest to this as well. If you were kind of not forced to, but if you were encouraged to read the Bible when you were young, a lot of what the Bible says and how it says it is very difficult for a young person to really digest and think about. I think that's why, even if you're not a religious person, it's actually not a bad idea to revisit the Bible and read through some of the stories and just see what it's saying. And just remember that this is someone's interpretation of what happened. If you're not a religious person, it's okay to read a religious book and explore the religious texts. Because I think more often than not, there's a lot of stuff in there that not only refers to things like the Nephilim, but then if you read the book of Ezekiel and you read, certain aspects of the Bible that talk about things that we're still experiencing to this day, I think you realize how long a lot of these conversations have been just in our consciousness, in our lives as human beings. So the whole thing about giants and Antarctica, I want to kick it over to Jake because I'm fascinated. Jake and I have also talked about this at length, and something that I do recommend, funny enough, is a movie about Antarctica. It's called Encounters at the End of the World by Werner Herzog. He had access to an Antarctic base camp there where he went and filmed a small documentary I think he was there for a few months. Head over and watch that movie if you can find it. I have it on Blu-ray, but you'll learn something about Antarctica just by watching the people who live there. And there's something off, and not in like a demonic way, not in like a scary way. There's just something different about the humans that live in Antarctica working there, quote unquote. I would highly recommend watching that film. And Werner Herzog it's Werner Herzog. He has no fear as a filmmaker, and he's one of the best documentarians, in my opinion. So that will, I think, really get your gears turning as far as just the mystery behind Antarctica. And that scratches the surface. But Jake, what do you think about all this stuff? I mean, you pick a part of it because it's a huge subject. But what do you think? Just branch off what Rain was saying.
Can I uncover my ears now?
I heard Insidious.
I heard Insidious and took to the hills, man. I'm not living that anymore. It's pretty deep. This space is on fire. I would love if we could go a little over an hour today with these subjects, depending on how we're weaving, because we're weaving some really very complex, mystical subjects that I believe touches everybody in this room.
If we flowing, we flowing.
And, to Ebert's point, come on up, right? If you want to chat about this and jam about either your experiences, some opinions, or books that maybe we should read, right, or recommendations. I'm always a sucker for a good book, and a good movie. But before I dive in, I want to answer Rain, and then I want to hit on some of these subjects, very briefly, but really passionately, though, too, because they each deserve their own merit of passion. The first one is, I just saw, and I don't really watch a lot of horror thriller movies anymore these days, just being a Papa Bert. It's just not really in my atmosphere, and there's just zero time to do it. But my partner and my little Bert are out of town, and so there's a movie I've been wanting to watch for a few years. I just never really had the chance to do it. It's called The Menu. Have you seen that?
Oh my God!
Yes,
great movie.
Great movie.
Watch it.
Great movie. The acting, it's some new style, and I absolutely fell in love. Right, it's a very dark movie. Don't get me wrong. So if your head's not in a good spot, don't watch it. But if you're in a good place in life, yes, right. But it's a great movie. It just reminded me of what you hit on, Rain, earlier about these horror thriller movies can invoke a sense of comedy, but also a sense of surrealism of your life, especially when thinking of the afterlife and what's to come. And The Menu, I think, just hits it right on the head, right? Egoless, right to the point. And I love it with comedy. So in context of the religious text, I always defer to what we can look at as the totality of what is available. And so in Christianity, there are dozens, maybe even arguably hundreds of books that are omitted from the Bible, which is common knowledge now. If you're not familiar, I highly recommend to check out any book possible, which they're available now in English. You can get them on Amazon. Any book possible from the Nag Hammadi Library or the Bruce Codex. Those are, to modern Christians today, they would be viewed as extensions of the Bible. To Gnostic Christians, or in a way, ancient Christians, essentially Christians that were walking the era from, around 2080 to, I'd say around, well, they're still today, but around 1500 AD or so. And that's where you have the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas, the Gospel of Mary. You have the Book of Enoch, books 1, 2, and 3. You have the Pistis Sophia, which I'd highly recommend. It's about the divine feminine. These books were meant to be included actually in the Bible. And the Council of Nicaea convened in 333 AD and just decided, these don't belong in here. Let's put these in here instead and unify this book and call it a day. And that's how the Bible that we know it became what it is. But there's far more contexts that are omitted. And so the context of the Nephilim are actually introduced in much earlier writings. Some that even may predate the earlier writings of Genesis, which is pretty wild. So what I recommend, and I absolutely echo here, even if you're not religious, it's a beautiful read. I highly recommend it to expand your knowledge. Read the Bible, read the Torah, read the Quran. It's a beautiful book. I always defer to, it's a good reminder for me to read the Bhagavad Gita, which is what I sit with personally and meditate with. But you can read the earliest books, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is one I always love to start with, the earliest known story that we have on this earth. And we always start with love stories. We crave love stories, but we also crave, Rain, what you were talking about is what comes next. And it is scary. It's scary as shit to the human mind when the body will cease to exist. And where do we go? When there is no objective proof. And so we either have to defer to an inner faith that has belonged in us the entirety of the presence, or we invent our own faith to justify where we go. We really have two choices, or we can just remain agnostic, which I still would be the former of those two decisions, and just surrender to the infinite. So either way, one should not attack the other. One should welcome it. One should absolutely welcome it. Where do we go? The great mystery, right? We always want to know what's on the other side of that wall because we're all heading there. Every one of us in this room, we're all marching that direction. And so what existed that may have told us this in the past? Well, possibly many things. Possibly. What's in Antarctica? I have no earthly idea. I will say that I have tried to go many times. A little fun side quest here. And I've abandoned this aspiration, by the way, now that I've gotten old. But when I was a younger man, many years ago, I had an aspiration to be the first person to double traverse the continent. I actually was training for years to take a sled dog team and traverse the Transantarctic mountain range, meaning that you take a sled dog team, you go across the entire continent just on a sled dog team with your food provisions by yourself. And then once you reach the other side, you traverse it again and go back the other way. No one to date has ever done that and survived. And I was training to be the first. But again, to get down there and do that is just insane in terms of licensing and permitting, and it's a pain. So
it's like 35,000 to just go, I think. It's like you have to like drop like 35 grand just to get a ride.
Yeah, we can get a little cheaper. I mean, we know a few folks that can take you down there, but it's through like the Drake Passage, which is like, I don't have sea legs, man. And the Drake Passage looks so gnarly just to get through, right? Like, I don't know if I could stomach it. Like, I'd rather fly into McMurdo Station. That was my plan. But to hitch a ride with the government, who I work for, I'd had to get a space available flight, which I could. So that's how I was planning to get down there, was on the McMurdo Station through air. But I did not want to go through the Drake Passage. But are there pyramids there? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Because it was a fucking rainforest. Bacteria survived there. Life and biology evolved there. So we would be remiss to not even consider it. What's fascinating to me is why we have not publicly acknowledged the synthetic aperture radar scans in the area, to include even LiDAR scans in the area, which we can do, right? We can do that from any bird.
Now that they did Giza, I think that they're probably going to bring the LiDAR scanning down. It has to.
I mean, and SAR, yeah.
But is this the slow drip? Like that's the weird thing. I think like, man, there's so many good points that you made, Jake. There's so many good points that you made, Rain. I think what's really interesting, and something you mentioned is like sometimes you have to make up your own mind. You kind of have to form your own belief system, and sometimes you have to surrender to whatever it is. And I think that there are so many people who really obsess about finding the answers to the two big questions: are we alone, and what happens when we die? And I think that what's been really interesting for me, and this is, again, it's all a personal journey, but I think that movies in general allow you to peer into someone else's perspective about the answer to those two questions. And I think that through history, many different artists have explored these two questions. I think there's an argument where most of cinema is an exploration of these two questions. And I think, obviously Ebert is here to explore those two questions. And I think as an artist, we are kind of almost tasked with the information that we receive to crystallize it and then share it in our own perspective to, I think, kind of raise the collective consciousness of what everyone else also thinks. Because for me, I know that I've learned a lot about myself and what I believe and what I think from watching movies. I'll watch something and say, wow, I feel like that's really true. There was a small movie made, I remember this very distinctly, when I was dating my now wife, when I lived in New York. We watched a movie called A Ghost Story, which was a David Lowery movie, and I think he made it for like $100,000. And it's the story about a couple who live together in a house in the middle of nowhere, and the husband dies in a very tragic accident. And the entire story is about what happens after that. And it focuses on his widow, on the wife, and how she has to process what happened. And I don't want to give too much away. It absolutely I think at that moment I decided to propose to my wife, because I realized how powerful losing someone that you care so much about can be, and how intense love can really be, for humans, and how intense the loss of that connection can be if you feel like, you didn't get enough time, or you feel like you got gypped. And there are movies that completely reframe the way that you think about life. And to me, that is a spiritual, religious, whatever you want to call it, experience. That there's a filmmaker out there who understands the way that I feel so deeply, that what he made resonates with me so deeply, that I decided to really take action in my life because of what he made. I decided to live more fearlessly, because at any point, anything could happen. And I think there are so many movies that explore the afterlife, and don't try to answer the question exactly, but they try to portray the feelings around the afterlife. And that for me feels like it gets so close to what it really is. It's something that feels ineffable. It's something that feels like whatever the human conventions that we use to explain things, the materialist sciences that we govern ourselves by, can't necessarily do justice to what it actually is. And I think that movies live in this place where they go beyond words for many people. And they go beyond words, they go beyond the sound, they go beyond the visuals, because they're an amalgam of all of these things. And I think because they bring our awareness and what we think and our experience with them to a higher dimensional plane. I think that they pull our interaction with them to some sort of a higher dimensional place, and sometimes it resonates, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we watch Insidious and it scares the shit out of us, and we never want to watch it again. And sometimes we watch something that completely changes the way that we think about the world. And I again, this is a bit of a rant, but I think that movies have really been such an outline to how humans view these two big questions. And a lot of it, some of it's religious and some of it's not. But I don't think that that's really even the point. It's really the exploration that movies have allowed us to experience. And I think that as we evolve and as we get more technological, I feel like this exploration is going to get more and more and more intense, to where things that feel true come through the movies and kind of reflect really what is happening in front of us at this very moment. So yeah, this is a really, really, really fascinating subject, and it brings up so many important, really values about why filmmakers make the films that they do. And there were a lot of movies that got mentioned today that just, I think are in so many people's top 10s of all time. 2001 got mentioned today, and if you've seen 2001, you definitely think about what else is out there. Is there a monolith sitting on a planet in our solar system somewhere that was put there intentionally for us to find one day? And I think that there's so much to explore. And even if it's fiction, it may not be the fiction that you need to unwrap to really find the truth that's in the movie you're watching. So, Rain, it's a great subject. I think that this Birdathon opens up a really important part of why Space from the Deep is Space from the Deep. And Jake, you brought up a lot of really, really good texts that to be honest, there are a few of those that I haven't even heard of that I was writing. And I'm probably going to go back to the recording and find those. And it just, yeah, like a lot of this stuff really, really resonates. So.
Can I say something real quick?
Please.
Off topic, not going to derail us, but I want to shout out Haywood.
Haywood.
I remember his Bugs Bunny icon.
Yep.
Haywood, I don't know, has he been in a Birdathon lately? I want Haywood to become an HB. So you keep grinding, Haywood.
Keep grinding.
You're always in the shadows, little Bugs Bunny guy, but I fucking see ya.
Haywood won 2 weeks ago.
Keep cooking. Did he?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah. He won. I think I picked him.
They picked Haywood.
That's what it was. Yeah, because we were talking about Looney Tunes. You think it's like an honor Looney Tunes. We're picking fucking Haywood. Yeah, okay.
And he stuck with the PFP too. It wasn't just like, he didn't just put it on because he knew that Jake, would pick him, and he stuck with it. And Haywood, just shout out to you. You've been reposting us and like showing us a lot of love on X. So thank you for staying active and grinding with us. Did I get zapped?
No, we got you. We got you.
I didn't know what I was going to say. I don't want to take over and be like, hey, I love you, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to do the same because I'm chomping at the bit. I'm just like a dog. And there's like a bowl of hot dogs in front of me. And I'm like, man, like, which one? Can I go? Can I get it? Can I get it?
Those are the best,
we have like 10 minutes.
Those are the best. Those are the best.
Bert. How do you want to go? All right. Go into?
Okay. So Rain, you know what announcement I want to make, and it's about Space in the Deep. That's something that you and I have been talking about and working on in the background.
We're doing this?
I wanted to announce it here, talk about the why and talk about what people can expect. And then I think what we'll probably do is make a few shorts about that and announce it on, on socials and in our Discord and things like that.
I'll say this real quick, Bert. This is a time not to be humble. Do not be humble. You oversell this thing, okay? This is really fucking badass. All right? Do not be humble.
I agree. No, I agree. After you showed me what you showed me, and after I've really seen what we've been making, I'll just fucking announce it. Why not? Space from the Deep is going to video. So that's one of our announcements. As far as Space from the Deep goes, we are going to be live streaming all Space from the Deep shows week to week, Friday, same time. But Rain is a wizard when it comes to OBS live streaming, all of those good things. And he's in a completely different league than I think anybody I've ever seen as far as setting shows up. And basically, we're going to have like a broadcast type show. Like, it's going to feel very polished and very real. And it allows us to do a lot of things. So nothing changes. You're still going to be able to view it on X. We're going to stream it to YouTube. It's going to be completely packed in, locked in, ready to go. We're going to be on video. And also, there's so many things we can do with a live streaming environment too. There's so much we want to share. We can bring movies up on the screen. There's behind the scenes stuff that we could also talk about in real time. I could show you guys things that I'm working on my screen, all different sorts of things. It feels like the natural evolution to a show that I think has really become one of my favorite parts of our weeks in the ECU. And we're evolving it to be something really, really special. And it's going to be like, it's going to be a foundational pillar to what Who is Ebert is. And Rain has been really helpful in really just setting up what this show is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. Just getting the format right, understanding that it's going to be structured, but still loose in the same way that Space in the Deep has always been loose. So it's a free show, but it also is just going to feel polished, and it's going to feel like we got a show, like a real show. And those episodes are obviously going to be available on YouTube after in full. So we're kind of transcending beyond the exosphere. And I think going into a world that allows us to really refine the content that we make, reuse it, use clips from it, and share it in all different sorts of ways. You guys have probably seen that I started even just minting Space in the Deep clips on Zora, and just pushing content out, making sure that people know that we're here, that we've been here, that we're building. And I think that this, kind of evolving into a live stream type show for a Web3 project is, I just think, a really important thing. And I feel like there are very few projects who take that step, but I feel so confident that like we're getting really good at this. And these conversations are so engaging and like really just thrilling to me. Like, I really missed doing this last week when I had to dip out in the morning. So I feel like it's a really fun part of our week. It brings everyone together. It wraps up the week in a positive and encouraging way, regardless of what's going on in the world and in the market. And it feels like the right move. So Rain, I wanted to just kind of have you cap it off too, as far as like this move goes, because you've seen projects go from, let's say just the audio on X stage to a live show. What does this mean for Who is Ebert in your eyes?
Wow, a lot of pressure there. I'll put on my business hat here, my multimedia production hat. So basically what this does, guys, is it's just going to amplify everything. And, I'll talk to every avenue of a consumer here, but like, if you love Ebert for its content, you're going to be blown away. You're going to absolutely be hyped. You're going to be pumped up. You're going to be able to feel like you're watching like a TV show, like your favorite TV show. You're going to feel like you're tuning in to watch that. And it's going to be also very easy for you guys too to, you know, get your friends to watch, or like have anyone who's like, hey, you want to see this project that I love? Or you can even be like, hey, there's this awesome show, you know, that drops every Friday, you know, check it out. Click this link. They'll be able to watch and they'll be like, all right, that shit was awesome. So that's going to be incredible. It's also going to open up the opportunity, you know, to make everything very engaging. Like we'll be able to make a ton of short form content, you know, from these videos as well, which obviously is going to, you know, increase overall exposure, impressions, views, yada, yada, all those business terms. But a big thing, I'll say this for any of our holders, you know, which everyone in here is obviously a holder. I will say it's going to impact the price. It's going to impact the chart. You know, you will see every project I've ever done this from, any, even outside of Web3, you know, just taking a brand or even like a video game and building this out, it creates such a bullish sentiment in the sense of legitimacy, right? Like most people, they have a very short attention span, right? It's like if they're looking for a new project or trying to find something, you know, new, or something that has a ton of potential, most people are not going to go dig deep to find that. They're just going to see something front facing value and they're going to be like, oh, that looks cool. You know, I'll check it out, you know, and then they might check it out or they might not, or they might see a viral clip or something and be like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I like this project, I'm going in. With a live show like this, what it's going to do is basically anyone who's already had their eye on eBert, maybe waiting to accumulate a bag or waiting for a price point, etc., you know, to want to join the ecosystem community, they're going to see this leveled up production. They're going to see this show and they're going to be like, holy fucking shit. Like, you know, I knew these guys were making a movie or a film series or something like that, but like now seeing like how good of a job they're doing on these live streams, the professionalism and what they have here, you know, I have all the faith in the world that these guys are actually going to make something really, really, really fucking good, you know, and they're putting their money where their mouth is, quote unquote, right? The value and the credibility is going to be a lot more front facing for new users to join the ecosystem. So that's my business kind of breakdown from a consumer breakdown to get you guys hyped and excited. It's just going to be really fucking fun. You know, like think about it like this. So what's going to happen is, you know, the show is still going to be, it's going to have that quote unquote organic conversation kind of feel to it. But like, you know what me and Jake will do, obviously, and Bert too, is we'll be like, all right, kind of like, is there anything like specific, you know, you guys want to talk about or whatever the hell? And like, let's say it was Antarctica, right? Like we would be able to have things prepared for Antarctica just in the sense of visuals. So like while we're talking, Bert will be able to literally just click buttons on the broadcast and it'll showcase things and just provide visuals about exactly what we're talking about, right? Like let's say I'm talking about the Nephilim and you see a fucking giant, right? You see like an artist depiction of a giant, you know, and maybe like another, you know, drawing of a giant building a fucking pyramid, right? It's going to add that extra layer. Plus, I'm not going to spoil anything because Bert knows I refuse to spoil. I'm all about, I mean, I don't know, you know, with movies and shit, you got to have trailers, you got to build some hype and stuff. But I will say, you know, the character will be integrated, right? And everything that we do in the show will feel fucking amazing. You know, I'm putting a lot of pressure on Bert, which is good. You know, he loves it. But it's only because I really believe in it that, you know, this show, and what I told Bert is, you know, we need to value people's time in the sense of, you know, build this show in the sense of that, why would I spend an hour of my time watching this show, you know, instead of watching an hour of, I don't fucking know, of Vikings or Severance or Ted Lasso or whatever the fuck, you know? So like, that's the mentality we're coming at it with is like, you know, we want to captivate the audience. We want to make it the most enjoyable, entertaining, you know, phenomenal, basically TV show, you know, that people look forward to watching and are just waiting for a new release every single week and are super excited. And I'm very confident we're going to be able to deliver on that. You know, the graphics and everything being made and the animations and all this stuff, it's going to be incredible. So basically, if you already love Space from the Deep, to put it as transparent as possible, you're probably going to shit your pants in pure joy from when we actually reveal this. So yeah, that's my consumer thought, my business thought, but it's all really good stuff, guys. It's Trust me on this. It's very good for the ECU.
It's going to be amazing. It's good. Like you're saying, it's going to be real. It's going to be a real show. I like real transitions, real motion graphics. It's going to we're going to have an open, we're going to have a close. You're going to be able to actually hear the music that we play. It really, I think it has to happen. We've been doing this for too long now to really, it's a fork in the road. Either we just kind of continue doing it in this way, but there have just been so many instances where, shit, it would have been great to share this to the live right now, like just so people can see what I'm saying. Like I think maybe a dozen instances in every single Space from the Deep episode. I've really been like reaching for a screen share, saying, "Damn, this would have been really great to trigger right now, so people could see what I'm actually talking about." So, Rain, I think that your expertise, really coming from the streaming world, is just such a value for us. And as we start to build things out and really understand, what this show is going to feel like, we already have this great foundation to build from. So it's going to feel like a really natural segue into something that I think is going to be so enjoyable for the community, as opposed to, just the audio, which has been an absolute joy in and of itself. But I'm super, super hyped to, do video and do live stream and get into all that stuff as well, because I think that there's so much we can show behind the scenes, and again, I want to start really sharing more about like really this 3.5 minute film we've been making live on stream. A lot of people have seen it or versions of it, but also, maybe we get one of our animators on and he can give us a walkthrough of his Blender session. It looks like, hieroglyphs to a lot of us. And I think it would be really a pleasure to watch someone of that caliber walk us through how he did this shit. So just stuff like that, if you're interested in animation, if you're interested in film, I could probably get some people that I know to come on and talk. I think it opens up the door when we have kind of a little bit more of a legitimized look to bring in bigger guests, to, just do more. And I think that's been our whole thing with the ECU. And we just want to do more and more and more and more. And I think that we've tried all different sorts of things. Like we tried rodeo, we've tried minting to Nifty Kit. We've tried all different sorts of avenues, and some stick and some don't. And I think that we've put time into the things that feel right, the things that our gut are telling us like, this is the move. Like this is a good thing for the project, as opposed to being something that really panders to, someone else's product or, an app that someone else is peddling. Like for us, evolving a show in the way that we want to evolve it, and kind of letting the tools not dictate what we do, but us dictate what tools we use. Big, I think, an important evolution for a project to make. And Meyer said it in the chat before. He's like, no one's doing this. And I feel like you're going to be able to see our faces, and you're like, I'm doxxed. You can find me pretty easily. I want to be public. I want my face to be out there talking about what we're trying to do, because I think it's a beautiful mission. I think that we're trying to do something really big. We have a big vision. We want to share it with the world. We want people to see what we're saying and how we're saying it. And I'll have to put clothes on, obviously, for these, because I do these streams naked. But I think that, that's just, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. It's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
I was just about to say it too, bro. Every Ebert space, for those of you guys don't know, I'm shirtless every Ebert space. Yes, 110%. It's natural. It feels like it's part of the theme. Yeah, it's the beauty of it. The beauty of an Ebert space. But no.
I'm going green screen too, by the way. Out. Full green screen. I'm gonna set up the FX3. It's gonna be like, I want it to feel so legit. And again, like people, I have so much fucking passion for this. Like I want everything to feel polished and feel good and like feel like on brand, and like that. Like I wouldn't do a show, I wouldn't take it to this step if it wasn't going to feel real. I wouldn't go there. And Rain knows this about me. If I'm going to do it and I say I'm going to do it, I'm going all the way, and it's going to be great. And that's, that when I commit to something, it will absolutely be the best that it can possibly be.
He's a dog.
Eric will play and sing with that
dog in him. You got that dog in you, man. 100%.
Absolutely.
100%. Let me say one last thing.
Go for it.
Just to like get people hype again. Just one last thing. The bar is very fucking low, guys. Like, I don't know if you've seen, I'm not even going to say, I'll say crypto for that. The bar in crypto is the lowest fucking of the low entertainment. I'll be honest. That's why I've been so fucking successful. is because the bar is so fucking low. It is so fucking low in terms of entertainment and crypto. Like, you say a crypto project is like, hey, we're officially live streaming. You go to tune in. It is a guy just doing a screen share on a really shitty cam with a shitty mic and a monotone voice, just doing exactly what they did in the space, talking about a bunch of fucking nonsense. So, like, I'm very excited because the bar is so low. Like, we're going to be able to stand out very fucking easily. Very, 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 very easily just from, you know, an entertainment threshold. So, you know, I'm excited. I'm pumped up. And yeah, the bar is super low and we're going to absolutely slam through the roof. And I have very high expectations of the results. And I think that they're very tangible and, you know, easy to achieve. So there we go. I'll leave it at that. But just to, you know, get people's minds right.
Yeah, no, we're going to knock it out of the park. And I think that goes even into the gaming world too, you know, as far as streaming and Twitch goes. Like, there's a format right now, obviously. There's a format. And I think that when you look at like some other original IP projects that don't do this, like look at MFers, like they just released their pilot, but they're now fighting for the attention on their pilot. Like, they don't have something that kind of anchors down what they're doing on a weekly basis. I think that like the guy who's running it like releases an update once every few weeks or once every couple like month or so. I don't know. But for us, like this, you know, that like constant pressure is a really important part of this business, but any business. So I think that not only the quality that we're striving for, but just the consistency that we're striving for as well. It's more is more. And I think that we don't want to do more unless it's going to be kind of within the caliber of what we expect from the content that we put out. As you know, like when I release content, it's got to feel good. It's got to be polished. It's got to be real. It's got to be professional, which is one of the reasons that I shared that post up to this space, which I think it got shared up to this space. I'm looking at it now, but I shared a post up into this space about Meyer. I posted a short, and I actually threw it up on Zora in case anyone wanted to go on Zora and get it. It's a clip about Meyer, who's been like an amazing, amazing person in our community for a long time, and makes art for us pretty frequently. And the Space from the Deep image we talked about I think it was last episode, I made a little video about that. And, you know, this is a perfect example of like the types of things that we want to put out, like, you know, highlighting our community members, highlighting what we're doing, you know, sharing funny moments, sharing things that we recommend, like all the, like the conversations today, man, that would be so fun to like share in bite-sized pieces for the world. So yeah, just kind of echoing off of what Rain was saying, we're really hyped. We'll probably, again, I can't determine exactly if it's going to be next week or maybe the week after, but we're getting a lot of things together. I'm testing out a lot of things on this end, getting kind of my rig set up to be on live stream. But it's going to happen. It's going to be awesome. Probably within the next week or two, we'll keep everybody updated, and we'll probably give an early signal to the Alpha group, or, you know, even just let people know in the Telegram and Discord what is happening and where they can find it. You can watch it on YouTube. You can also watch it on X. I think same thing. So figuring out the technicalities of that, it's not too hard, but it's going to be awesome. So one last thing to mention is our Birdathon winners. So we have 2 Birdathon winners for the Birdathon this morning. This was a really hard choice. Obviously, this Birdathon really slapped. Like I had to go back through because I see people mentioning Solaris, like the Tarkovsky Solaris. I see Devil's Pass, Phoenix Forgotten, like some really, really good ones. But the ones that I had written down, the 2 that I really loved were Bambi. Bambi, who had a lot of good, I think he had like 3 or 4 different really, really good suggestions and some good reasoning behind his stuff. And then Des. So Desmodus, I need to go find your response, but you guys won the Birdathon today. I think both of you are repping Kid Called Beast PFPs as well. So repping Kid Called Beast coming into the ECU and dropping dimes for our Birdathon today. We appreciate it. You guys absolutely knocked it out of the park. So I'll get you in DMs. Congrats. You both won $33 in Ebert. And the movies that you guys recommended were spot on. And the reasoning really was the thing that pushed it over the top for me. So congrats to you guys. I got nothing else for today. Big announce on Space from the Deep, going to video and live stream. Got our Birdathon winners. We had some deep talks. it was a good one. One of my favorite episodes so far. How are we feeling, Jake Wave?
Feeling great. I love the announcement that just came out today. So excited for the live stream and what's going to come with our show. Rain, I know you're incredibly instrumental in bringing this forward into motion and to giving it the energy and life it deserves. I don't have anything else. I think that, again, going back to my hot dog and dog analogy, I got my bowl filled. I got the hot dogs in my belly. I am a happy Bert, and I just want to say to everyone, let your light shine. Have a wonderful weekend and week ahead, everybody.
Amazing. Thank you, Jake. I got nothing else. I was going to pass over to Rain if you had anything else, but I think that we're feeling pretty good on Space from the Deep, episode 23. We'll see if we can get episode 24 on live stream, but if it's not 24, it'll be 25, but it's happening soon. We're working, we're cooking in the background, doing all the good things. We'll keep everybody updated as we normally do. But for now, we'll see you guys next week on episode 24 of Space from the Deep. This is us signing out. Enjoy your weekends. Go touch Earth, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.